everyone. My name is John, and this is the first episode of my podcast called Arcadia 1. In this podcast, I will be talking about various topics coming from anime to movies to different things that pique my interest. Nothing really specific, but it will directly follow the news topics of films, entertainment, and anime in particular. So, with that out of the way, let me make a quick disclaimer about my opinions. So, of course, in this modern day and age, people tend to be a little sensitive about opinions and stuff like that. So, just to clarify, this is my opinions alone. And if that is an issue, well, then this is what this is for. Please do not hate against what I'm saying. Please respect everything I'm saying. I'm not a very hateful person, and I will keep everything as purely as neutral as I can. But I will have instances where I will talk about certain topics and certain discussions and put my own 2 cents in them. So, with that out of the way, just keep that in mind and respect what I have to say from this point on. And if it doesn't fall into anything that you're in favor for, well, I apologize ahead of time, and you can continue to listen or just choose not to anymore. So, with that disclaimer out of the way, let me get on to the first half of this podcast, and that would be, of course, with Anime Expo. So, earlier this month in July, I had actually attended Anime Expo, not as a guest, but actually as an employee for a company, an exhibitor, I guess you could say. And I had fun doing it. It was my first time working there, and I think I'd want to do this again, seeing as though I met so many different people there, from different cosplayers to different YouTubers, that I've continued to follow their work for over a year now. One of which was Super Eye Patch Wolf, very cool guy. If you haven't checked him out yet, please do. His video essays are very amazing and very insightful to whatever it is he's talking about, even if it's wrestling. And yes, it gets there. And then one of the cosplayers I met, shout out to Inori Bunny, very, very cool girl. And although I'm pretty sure some people may not know who she is, definitely a cool cosplayer. Very sweet, very kind, and she was dressed up as Deku, which I appreciate because that is my anime of the year for sure. But those are just a few people that I met, and there were various other people that I continued to meet throughout the expo. But I won't get into it too much, and I'll just jump into the first thing I want to discuss that was released at Anime Expo. And that would be the Gundam live action movie. Now, right off the bat, I am a huge Gundam fan, so I love building model kits. I love watching the shows. I am not caught up with every single show that they've made, so I can't call myself a super fan, but it's still a great franchise nonetheless, and I've learned to appreciate it with time. And with that being said, I can see kind of a bit of a concern with some of the fans, and I mean, Sunrise is partnering up with Legendary, and they are creating this live action film, and apparently it's going to take place in Universal Century, which is the original timeline story base where most of the Gundam stories happen if you don't watch the franchise. So it'll be taking place in that time with the original characters and original story, and everything's going to be just completely fleshed out and fresh and new. So from what they disclosed about that at the Anime Expo, I think that's a good way to put it off, and Sunrise will work very closely with Legendary to make sure that they make a proper film, that they won't mess it up, because I'm pretty sure they're aware of all the little screw-ups and little mishaps that Hollywood has had so far with live-action anime films. And well, Japan has had their flops too, from box office numbers. From what I've checked, that would include JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, even though I think it was pretty good from some of the footage that they shared and trailers and stuff like that. and of course the taboo of the discussions, which is Death Note from Netflix and Dragon Ball Evolution. But we'll see what they do. Other than that, I wish them the best of luck, and we'll see what they bring out within the next year. Moving on, there was a little bit of talk about this, and this is about the Bleach live action film. Now, at the time of this recording, it is already released, and it so far has done okay at the box office. It was directed by the same person who made the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure live action film, and it's slightly underperformed from that film. But from what I've heard from different people on YouTube and on the internet, they say that the Bleach live action film is actually pretty good, pretty decent. So, I mean, when they announced it, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, I was okay with it. It was cool. I really wanted the anime to come back like the rest of us, but obviously we didn't get that. But hopefully they will, depending, I guess. But it seems like they want to make the Bleach live action films continuous series of films. So I hope that they do get around to, doing the Soul Society arc and introducing so many other characters that I feel like people would really like to see again in a different form, and that form being live action. So good luck to Bleach in the box offices in Japan, and I think maybe we'll see if it strives to make a sequel. But I'm a Bleach fan at heart, so wish them the best of luck. Next up is the JoJo Part 5 premiere at Anime Expo. Now, I heard a lot of talk about this, and the people that did go to the panel said that it was actually very good. It was exactly what we were expecting from Part 5 to basically look like and have a tone from its manga counterpart. And I'm not afraid of it being different than what most people have said that it might be. I think it's pretty much going to stick to the same art form, and it's going to premiere in October for the rest of us. So that's going to be a nice treat to look forward to. But Part 5 for me, I have personally not read it. I've only read up to, I think, Part 4. But there's so many other stories out there that kind of just fall into place and are amazing. So if you haven't read the manga of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, please try to. It's pretty good. And yeah, catch up with the anime. It's ridiculously amazing, and everything about it is just purely wonderful. It has definitely a growing fan base that I think is underappreciated, but hopefully it gets more attention, and I'm pretty sure with the Part 5 coming out, it will. Moving on, My Hero Academia, the movie, The Two Heroes, that also was a big thing that I was looking forward to, but unfortunately because I was working, I was not able to go and watch the premiere at all. I'm just thinking that the day of day one at Anime Expo, I went early so that I could show up to work inside the exhibit hall and do whatever they wanted, help unbox and put some stuff on the shelves and whatnot. But before I went inside the exhibit hall, I saw so many people outside waiting, and I was like, what are you guys waiting for? And they're saying, well, we're waiting here to go see My Hero Academia. I'm like, oh my god. And they were in tents, they were in sleeping bags. I was like, I cannot beat these people with their commitment. So I was impressed to see how many people really wanted to see this film, and I mean, why not? My Hero Academia is the growing popular shonen of the modern days, so its success is continuous, and I think the movie's going to do pretty well. They are releasing it here in the States for 5 days, from what I remembered, and it will be shown both in sub and dub, depending on which day you go to, and I believe that'll be also in September. If not September, then October. But it will be in the fall, from what they announced at the panel. I didn't go, but I've heard talk, and I'm pretty sure going online and you'll probably find the dates for it. So, speaking of premieres, also there was the Attack on Titan, sorry, season 3 premiere, and I'm not crazy about Attack on Titan, but I wanted to touch on this because I know it's still a growing franchise that people are just loving and going on about, but not with the anime per se. I'd say with basically the whole mishap of us having to wait 4 years for season 2 kind of drained us and made us lose the hype train on Attack on Titan. And I don't blame people, because to wait for quality over just bringing it out and making it continuously more hyped as the years went by, I'd say it was kind of like a missed opportunity to not release season 2 sooner. And now with season 3, there are going to be fans, of course, don't get me wrong, but I didn't hear a lot of people this year at the expo really excited for that per se. Sure, there were your average fans, and myself included, but I think the majority of us just prefer to read the manga instead. So I'm going to stick to that. And in terms of anime, they can produce as many seasons that they go on to do, but I'm just going to stick to the manga from this point on. Next, what they also announced at Anime Expo that I want to cover for sure is the Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon movie re-releases. Again, at the time of this recording, I actually got around to watching one of those dates, and that would be Sailor Moon R, the movie, and it was Sailor Moon S, the movie. Both of them very nostalgic, and they made me pretty much cry a little bit due to not having to see them for many years. And if you're surprised now that I'm a guy who likes Sailor Moon, please don't be. I am very much open to the idea of loving it, and I think it's just so great to enjoy it even after all these years. It's something you can't ignore. But having the movies to be re-released, it's nice because it's a constant reminder of how amazing and how successful it is, especially here in the States. When I went, there was a full house at the theater, and I just loved how people were laughing at small, obscure moments of just awkwardness and things that weren't exactly funny, but that people made funny just because of the reactions of different characters in the movies. And it was fun. So having to see an actual anime movie with an audience is just purely hilarious. So do that if you get the chance. With Dragon Ball Z, those films, they're showing Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan, I believe in September. And then in November, they are showing Fusion Reborn and the episode of Bardock special. So there has been talk because there was also a lot of reveals for the Dragon Ball Super movie, and we heard that Broly was going to be the antagonist, and I thought, okay, that's not bad per se, but it's nice to see that they're going to pretty much bring out something that they've already used, and Akira Toriyama is actually going to be putting his own, I guess, his own taste on the character, his own zip. I don't really know how to describe it, but he's putting his own touch on the character, and it's going to be interesting to see that. But more on that later. Other than that, though, I'm excited to see those two films. Hopefully I get to see both of them, and hopefully I get to see the other Sailor Moon movie that's going to come out for the re-release, which is Sailor Moon Super S, and the Ami's First Love special that they have, I think, before they show the movie. So that'll be something I'll talk about next month. Overall experience, now that we're at the end of my interest list from Anime Expo, it was fun this year. It was nice. It was completely different than my other previous years, where I've literally met not as many people as I have in past years. This is probably my 5th consecutive year going to Anime Expo and my first year working. So it was something definitely to look forward to and to enjoy. And I'll definitely go back there again if I can. But yes, so it's definitely going to grow, actually. I can tell there was a lot more people in attendance. And crowd control was pretty good. I didn't hear too many complaints. There was a bit of a talk, if you had not heard beforehand, that there was a possible shooting that could have happened, but obviously nothing did happen, thankfully, because security was really tight after that threat was put out. So yeah, if you haven't heard about that, it's not too much of a concern, but there was that threat. That's why there was so much security going on. And I mean, like I said, nothing happened. So I think that was pretty good on everyone else's part, especially people who ran, the people who ran Anime Expo. They just jacked up the security, and I liked it. So it made everything feel safer, better, more controlled, and it was fun overall. I liked it. And again, as I said, definitely go back there again. And if I can work again at the expo, I will take the opportunity, because why not? So another thing that also happened, and this is a bit of a more serious topic, there was an incident that had to do with Momokun, a cosplayer in the cosplay community. Her real name is Mariah Malad. She had actually done a pretty big no-no thing quite in the past couple of months or years. I'm not sure how long it's been going on. But she was going to do a meet and greet at the Creators Guild booth in the exhibit hall. And I think a little bit prior to Anime Expo, there were people who were coming out and saying stuff about her, saying like, oh, you know, she's done this and that, and I don't think it's appropriate for her to be there because she's had a history of doing this. And Creators Guild actually came out and put on Twitter saying that they wanted people who were experiencing these things to come out, and a lot of people did. Cosplayers such as Bunny Amiyumi and I think K-Bear, number of different cosplayers just came out and spoke out about what she did. There were things going from her literally flashing out different cosplayers, you know, cleavage completely out there, and just different instances of like groping, grabbing, and just completely being out there, just completely unnecessary, doing things that were just not okay without any permission whatsoever. And not only embarrassing these cosplayers, but just completely going out of crossing the line. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh at that, but it's just like, it's a little bit ridiculous how nobody, and especially her personally, that she was not able to tell and understand what she was doing. She did come and apologize about everything, but I'm not going to read that because it's just, I honestly, you can go and look at it on her Instagram, but I think it's kind of a load of crap in a way, because her apology doesn't sound necessarily entirely sincere. And call me crazy, but I don't think she's learned exactly that what she did and what she's done is completely okay. It's completely wrong, obviously, but she doesn't understand that. And she went on to go ahead and say like, oh, I have ADHD or something, and people were responding and saying, what? Like, that's that's not true. Like, why would you bring that out as an excuse? And whether it is or not, I'm not really one to put myself on that idea of her having ADHD issues, which I don't think is anything related to just suddenly groping people for no apparent reason. It's no excuse. You did something, take responsibility for your actions and apologize. That's it. But again, she did that. And for now, I think it's just kind of in the clear. But she said literally that she was going to take a break in her apology. And not only did she not just take a break, she posted and continued to post things after her so-called break was officially announced. And people were saying, you're not taking a break. That's not taking a break. Taking a break is just doing nothing and just reflecting on your actions and realizing the wrongs of those actions. But of course, to everybody's surprise, she didn't. So I'm not happy about that. She needs to take it up like an adult, because that's what she is, and not do that anymore. Because there are so many things and issues of, sexual assault, harassment, whatever, just continuously happening out there in the public, in different industries, and it's like unnecessary to have that kind of stuff in such a great community, with cosplay community. It's very open, but to this, obviously people are going to react. So get your crap together. Just don't do anything like that ever again. Mariah, just don't. It's not okay. And I'm pretty sure everybody else can agree. So, anyways, moving on from that. So this is part of the podcast where I'm going to talk about movies and stuff that I have actually seen in the past month and was not able to entirely review or put my input. Before I started this episode, I did announce that I was going to do video reviews. However, because of technical issues that I've had so far with just putting that out there, I don't think I can necessarily do that right now. So I will continue to do them as posts on Instagram. You can check them out at Access Arcadia. I will be putting some more up in August with whatever I watch. Or I would just put them on my Instagram story and just leave it there for people to see, and then leave it somewhere on the side for people to look at later. It's a little complicated to do normal movie reviews now, but if anything, I'll leave it to the podcast too, where I can talk about the films like I'm doing right now. So, first movie on the list that I did actually cover was Ant-Man and the Wasp. And that was a good movie. Very fun. It is the last movie, I think, that we're going to get from Marvel this year because, wow, this was a heavy year. And it obviously covers events prior to Infinity War with Ant-Man and the Wasp, and then kind of leading up to that moment of the big. So, won't spoil anything, but who I thought they were going to take away was not who I was expecting. But then again, promo art for Part 2 of Infinity War, whatever the title may be, it was released, and Ant-Man was in the poster, so I guess he's going to be there. Not sure how specifically, but again, some of the characters that got snapped, they were not who I was expecting. I was expecting maybe like one or two, but it was a little more, so kind of sad about that. But other than that, it was fun. I liked it. It kept the continuous theme of just comedy and seriousness kind of blended in, and it does explore more of the quantum realm, and it has a pretty solid happy ending. But I think it's just fun. It's a good watch, so go check it out if you have not. Next one is Skyscraper. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Skyscraper, another action movie with him in it. Yay! I'm not sure. I don't know. It was okay, in my opinion. It wasn't that amazing. It wasn't that good, but it was your typical 80s action flick revamped into the modern day, basically. That's how I can treat it. And I mean, I don't think that's a bad thing, but I just kind of felt like Hollywood is kind of running out of ideas, obviously. But it's just a solid action film. Nothing different, nothing special, in my opinion. Maybe just really nice special effects. But it's a good, solid film. Go watch it if it catches your interest, but it's not something that changes the game of, action films. But the one that did, actually, from what I've watched, is the next one I'm going to talk about, which is The Equalizer 2. That is a good, solid sequel to a film I actually did like. It was fun. Well, not fun, but it was interesting in terms of plot. And although it was based off a TV show, I think from the 70s, to see this idea being brought back and used as a film was pretty cool. And Denzel Washington's portrayal of, I forget his character's name, I think Robert, that was pretty cool. I like his whole tone, his whole attitude, and how he just handles different things. And it's just your very typical, badass kind of film. So I think it's worth the watch. I think it's something pretty interesting. And even if you haven't really seen the first one, it's still pretty something. It's not a waste of time to see. It still catches you on the idea, like, this is actually how an action film kind of is supposed to go. Kind of leading on to something a little bit more, like, tense, in my opinion. But still good nonetheless. Next one, I guess you could say it was okay. I mean, I don't know. It just depends on what your tastes are with films. But Mission Impossible Fallout. Not exactly my entire cup of tea. It was cool. A lot of the different twists and turns. That I give it props for, because so far from what I've seen about all these spy films and Mission Impossible in general, there hasn't been too much of a change in format, meaning that if you've seen one, you've probably seen them all. But this one kind of changed up that kind of formula, and I liked it. It was pretty good, pretty solid. So, yeah, watch it for those kind of twists and turns. I will say, however, though, the ending was very cliche. Not going to spoil it, but God, I wish there was some consequence to this movie, because the trailer portrayed like there was something that was going to change the franchise forever. And no, nothing like that happened. But still, give props to the story overall. It was pretty nice, but I wouldn't really give it a solid 10. Maybe like a 6 or like a 5.5. Just my opinion. The next film, however, that I was actually very surprised to watch, I got invited to see this film, a movie called Blind Spotting. Not what I was expecting. In fact, I think this actually might be like my favorite film of the entire year 2018. It's so, it really messes with your emotions, basically. And Blind Spotting, if you haven't heard of it, it's basically about this guy. He's on his last days of, I think of his parole. And, not parole, but I forgot what it's called. But he's just 3 days away from being completely a free man. And he gets into all these different, like, crazy different scenarios. And it's like, wow. And again, I won't go into specifics, but it literally keeps you, like, a little on edge, but at the same time, the movie transitions from moments of seriousness to, comedy and good laughs very, very, like, smoothly. The transitions, like I said, it very just, loved it. And it kind of throws you off in a sense, like, wait, didn't that just happen? And then now we're laughing about something else? Like, you really kind of get yourself, like, pulled in and out of, like a hot and a cold spot in the room. Like, you're just, like, one in the corner, and then now you're in the center of the room, and it's like, wait, where are we just on that side? What happened? So, having that emotional, I guess, switch on and off completely throughout the film was very refreshing. It was very good, and I liked it. So, if you want to be surprised, and it does actually tackle a bit of a few political issues, the ending, small minor complaint as to, like, how it's kind of settled on the big issue that is shown in the trailers. and that is that the main character of Blind Spotting, again, I'm terrible with names, but he witnesses a shooting, and the way that that is kind of like dealt with in the film near the end is not bad, but it's like could have been a little tad less of what they decided to do with it. Again, watch it for yourself. It is worth, honestly, just the sit down. It's worth it, and it actually does make you think about a couple of things and how this country deals with certain problems and how we deal with it personally. So give that a watch, and you might have the same opinion as I do. I don't know. Last film before I move on to the next large portion of the podcast. So as I said, I watched Sailor Moon R and S for the re-releases, and as I said earlier, man, it's just full of nostalgia. I can admit I did cry, but it's because having to see all that. Well, it's funny to me, but I didn't actually watch Sailor Moon R the movie at all. The first film I watched was actually Super S, but the second one I did watch was just from Sailor Moon Super, and I loved it. It was very just like it got me emotional. Let's just put it that way, because when I was a kid and I used to see different things on TV, news, and whatnot, I never really got this idea, like, that people can be different and be cool while doing it. And Sailor Moon, when I first watched it, just portrayed this idea into me that girls can be pretty cool as guys can in different shows. And I appreciate that. I appreciate it so much to actually have learned that from Sailor Moon. And it is my first anime that I've ever actually watched. So having to watch that again after so many years, because I have the VHS copies of the films of Sailor Moon S and Super S, but they're VHS. I don't have I don't have a VCR to play them, and so it's been in a box in my room for the longest time, and I actually forgot about it. And so when I saw posters of it being announced for the re-release, I'm like, I have to watch this, and it was a good thing I did. It really brought me back to really appreciating Sailor Moon, and after coming out, not only did I actually feel emotional over the fact of just all this nostalgia and realizing that it's a very important part of my life. Man, I really wanted to buy so much merch. I really wanted to go out and buy like Sailor Moon stuff, no matter where it was. I was like, give me that shirt, give me that jewelry, I want it. And it's like, wait, calm down, John. You can live without that. But yeah, so definitely really one that hit me back in the heart. So much. Oh, and before anybody comes out and asks, favorite Sailor Scout is Sailor Jupiter. No questions asked. Although Mercury was a bit of a runner-up, and then Mars. I'm not too crazy about Sailor Moon herself and Venus. Chibiusa I liked as a kid, but not anymore because, reasons. And I got older. And yeah, so just Sailor Jupiter fan all the way. Can't beat me on that. Change my mind. All right. Next big thing to cover is Comic-Con. Damn. And I thought like this month couldn't get any more crazier. Anyways, a lot of stuff was actually talked about at Comic-Con, and I'll get right to it, and we'll go into what they showed for Dragon Ball Super, the Broly movie. Trailer came out with the dub, mind you, so that means that they're probably working on that already, and they did announce that it will be released to the States in January. Kind of happy about that because it shows that they're being more serious about, close. How do I put it? They're more serious in Japan about collaborating with the US and making sure that these releases come out more sooner than months and months later like they usually would before. And that's I appreciate that. As a fan, I can appreciate that, and it's nice. However, the movie itself, I still say that Yamoshi, and if you don't know who that is, the Super Saiyan God of Legend and the Super Saiyan of Legend, he was basically the first Saiyan to do those things, both, apparently. That should have been the main focus of the film. I mean, you can, yeah, bringing Broly back is fine, but like it's like try something different maybe at some point for a change. But I'm not complaining because again, Akira Toriyama is putting his own, I guess, 2 cents into this character and putting his own version of it out there, which is nice. So it's not something entirely too much to complain about. However, I'd still say that they could just tried something different and new. But we'll see how it goes. Trailer looked pretty good. Maybe there's a big twist to it because people are now connecting the films that are being released to the new movie coming out later on. And there's speculation that we might get Gogeta to be officially canon. And I figured, I mean, it makes sense, and actually in a way. A lot of people said it, that if you're going to make Broly canon, make Gogeta canon. So I'd say, yeah, that's, if they're going to go with that, cool. Just do it in a way that makes sense. Don't just throw it out there and make it the solution of the film. And if you do it that way, just make it look good. I don't know. That's my only input on that. Next, they showed more in-depth story details for the Spider-Man PS4 game. Freaking sick, man. I love it. It's so amazing. God, it's going to be a great game, honestly. I have still doubts because you never know what one or two details they might end up messing up at some point. Who knows? It's just, regular doubts because we've had games in the past that look promising, but again, they're not. And it's always the indie games that nowadays are becoming more like, wow, that's actually pretty good. And in this case, Spider-Man looks promising. People are saying it's like the new Batman Arkham games, kind of like in that direction that's taking. I beg to differ. There's differences, obviously, in mechanics and, I guess, just gameplay style. So, some similarities, but it can obviously go in its own direction. But I can't wait to see how everything is just going to go. So, yay! Oh, and they released images for the limited edition Spider-Man PS4, and that's beautiful, and I want it. That's all I gotta say. Next, they showed the they showed the trailer for Godzilla, King of the Monsters. That is also very sick. I love it. It is beautiful. They didn't show too much of the monsters except for the king himself. But Mothra's going to be there, and King Ghidorah is going to be there. There is speculation that we might get a Rodan cameo. Maybe, maybe not. But it kind of makes sense because there could be something that could bring about that sort of, just a little cameo and pop in. But I think they already have enough monsters in there for them to kind of bash all over the place. And they're jumping the scale because with Godzilla back in 2014, there was so much destruction, but on a very small central area, like a city base kind of. And that destruction was limited to the city. In the trailer that they showed, it looks like they are going completely global. Oh. That is the way you do a monster movie, and I just hope they don't do anything bad that messes it up. Needless to say, I'm a huge Godzilla fan. I love all the original Japanese films, and I did like the 2014 film. We don't speak of the one from the 90s because, believe it or not, it's kind of bad. And I mean, if they're gonna follow that old, just Clash of the Titans kind of monsters kind of thing, go nuts with it, but do it right, as always. So that is something I'm definitely looking forward to. But speaking of comebacks, we are getting Clone Wars. Yeah, if you're a Star Wars fan, you've probably heard of it by now. Clone Wars is saved. Now, with me personally, I don't have too much history with Star Wars: The Clone Wars. I just saw the movie, a bit of the show when it came out, but I'm glad it's coming back because I heard people saying that it was just left unattended and that it's canon, but it just suddenly disappeared. And I think that was a smart move for them to take in terms of bringing it back and just finishing the story, because if they could do that with Samurai Jack, they could do it with anything else. But again, like I keep saying here throughout the podcast, just do it right, man. Just do it the way that people were kind of expecting. But if you're not going to do it that way at all, throw them off. Do something exciting. Do something different, but that actually seems satisfying. Just speaking out of a normal fan's perspective. That's all. Again, another revival on the list is Young Justice. Now that was something that I was not expecting, but that people did in general keep demanding. Again, totally something I'm now gonna look forward to. I did watch, I think, the first season of Young Justice. I think it was only the first season. I liked it. It was very nice, and the tone of it was just very like, ooh, kind of gritty and kind of different, and in a whole other perspective of different heroes that we don't usually see being shown to us, and a whole new generation, which is refreshing. Overall, hope they do it right. It is going to be on DC Universe's like own platform of like streaming service or whatever. That's okay. But with that decision being made, it showed that they were going to continue to make terrible decisions, and yeah, they kind of did. And by that I mean the Titans show. God, do I have to talk about this? Yes. That was terrible. God. Titans, if you don't know, is Teen Titans live action show that was teased at, I think, a couple months back. And then there were some pictures being shown of the cast that they put out there. There's a lot of Starfire hate from who they casted because, one, it doesn't look like Starfire because the actress playing her is African American. And then everybody else, except for Robin, apparently, people were just like, okay, that's cool, but everybody else is just like, not really like okay with it. And I heard they were gonna bring in Superboy. Not sure. They didn't really show him in there, I think, in the trailer. But speaking of the trailer, like, fuck Batman, right? No. God, that's just like, why? I question the angst that they have to just do that. God, they were trying to be so edgy, and it's a bit sad. I mean, in other words, I'm not a fan of what they're doing with the Teen Titans live action film, and they kind of already made a mistake to do the Teen Titans Go movie. Whatever, that's separate. I don't really care for it. Because they're just taking advantage of Teen Titans completely, like, holding it on a rope. They're giving us this Titans live action show, which I'm not entirely impressed with. They're giving us Teen Titans Go the movie, which people really don't want in general. I mean, so far I've heard that people like it. I don't know. Again, not a big fan. I don't hate the concept of it. I just thought, if you're doing Teen Titans Go, why can't you bring back the original Teen Titans? And with that being said, they were saying, I think, prior to Teen Titans Go, the movie being released, that DC would consider bringing back Teen Titans, the original show, if Teen Titans Go did good in the theaters. I'm like, you're putting a gun to our childhood's head. No, that's not okay. DC, get it together, man. And I mean, I think they kind of are, because they did show other projects that they have out. Aquaman, Shazam, Wonder Woman 2. They kind of talked about that. But Aquaman and Shazam, they look great. Honestly, in my opinion, they look great. They look pretty fun. They look pretty cool. I can see where they're kind of going with that direction, kind of making it a little bit more lighter of a tone. Although Aquaman's more of like a water-based version of Black Panther. Uh, sorry, headphone users. But it kind of is, honestly, if you can kind of see the similarities blending. But who's to say who did it first? Doesn't matter in terms of comics, but with films, it has that sort of vibe. But I'm still gonna go watch it because it looks fun. It looks nice, and I really do like Jason Momoa's version of the character, and it's something different because people are thinking Aquaman's lame. I'm like, I mean, with Jason doing it, it's not that bad. It looks cool, so I'll watch it. And then Shazam, that looks fun too because it's a little bit of a twist on like your typical superhero movie, like, oh, Martha, Martha, why'd you say that name? To, hey, I'm a superhero. Like, what's up? And I'm like, that's fun. That's nice. It's a bit of a twist. It's something different, and it's refreshing than your typical angst and edginess. But what do I know? I'm not running the business, am I? All in all, with Wonder Woman 2 also being in discussion at San Diego Comic-Con, I think they were saying that Chris Pine's character was going to come back. I don't know how. Speculations are out there. I hope it makes sense. That's it. But I'm excited to see how Wonder Woman 2 is going to work. Missed the marketing opportunity for like World War II, Wonder Woman 2, kind of to mix that in. But they're going towards the 80s, which is interesting to see. I hope they make a Linda Carter kind of reference because I know the show came out like a little prior to the 80s or around that time. So I hope that they give her a cameo or something in there and then just to have fun with it. But, oh well. So, moving on from tragedy to triumphs. Fantastic Beast. Crimes of Grindelwald. That's nice. I love it. It looks great. I like what they're doing with Fantastic Beast. It's completely refreshing to see something new and a different attempt at the Harry Potter franchise to tell a different story. I don't see how they can mess this up, honestly. I feel like they're going to do this kind of good and interesting, and it's proposed to be a multi-movie franchise series so far. I'm okay with that. And there's really no, like, clear, like, book that they're basing it on. It's kind of more so original because the original Fantastic Beasts book is just information on the mythical creatures from the Harry Potter universe, nothing more. But because this is more original and more from J.K. Rowling's, ideas and stuff like that, I think it's going to do good. I love the first one. I love the characters. I loved everything about it. So I think this one will do just the same, or if not better. So let's hope that it does. Yay! Next thing also that they released was the Venom trailer. Oh, I like that. That's cool. Very nice. Very, again, refreshing to see. It's nice that they're going with different villains and telling their stories, but man, Venom, I was hoping that it would be in the MCU. Not complaining, because from what the trailer showed, it actually looks pretty good. And I think I like Tom Hardy's, take on the character as well. He is doing Venom's voice, which is pretty cool. Just the little sound editing to that. I like it. So not much else to say other than it's probably going to do pretty good. And if it doesn't, I hope it doesn't bomb like completely, like terribly. But from what the trailer's shown, I think they're going to have fun with it. But at the same time, they're going to do some really cool stuff with it because they're probably going to explore more villains and stuff like that afterwards. And who knows? We might get a Tom Holland cameo. We don't know. But we'll see. But speaking of Spider-Man, they also showed stuff from Spider-Man Enter the Spider-Verse, which is the animated film that's coming out from Sony. Cool. I like it. I kind of want to see where they're going to go with that, so I will check it out when it comes out. Not too much. But I do like how they're bringing in Miles Morales, because damn, that boy was just... He was just so demanded to be brought to the films and the screen. And I mean, for him being a kid, like a young boy, I'm pretty sure he's like in his teens or something like that. I think that's a smart idea, and they should really introduce him in this time of Black Panther and all this movement in the film industry. It would pretty much be shining a bright light onto everything. And there was a hint of Miles Morales being in the MCU at some point, because in a deleted scene from Homecoming, Donald Glover's character talks to I think Miles on the phone or somebody, but he does reference Miles in one scene, and it's nice. So he might be in there in the future. We don't know, but hoping to see that this movie does its best, because it looks nice and it's kind of fun. Again, a lot of these movies that I've seen so far are pretty fun. So it's nice that they're going in that direction to where it's comic, it's more closely adapted from the comics and a little bit of the original taste and takes on the film, but it's also very fun at the same time. So I appreciate that. Next thing, Bumblebee. Oh, damn! I was not expecting them to make more Transformers films, but from what I heard after the last night, Michael Bay was not going to be part of that anymore, and I thought that was kind of a good idea. No offense. But I feel like somebody else could do something different with the franchise. So I appreciate that they're giving this opportunity to get different directors to tell different stories. They're milking it, obviously. But if they're going to milk it, they need to do more and more different stories and more different topics. Bumblebee is a good start. But they need to start showing stuff of just Cybertron and just the Transformers. No humans. Nothing. Just pure robot madness, and that's it. It's kind of what we're always asking for anyways. The humans are just like whatever, not much of a care in the world for them. Again, not in charge of that, so hope it does good. Oh right, and then the next big thing that I really want to get into discussion about, Glass. If you haven't heard of Glass or know what it is the third and possibly the final movie of the trilogy that started with Unbreakable, then Split, and then Mirror. Or not, then Glass, sorry. And it's with Samuel Jackson, Bruce Willis, and I forgot the last guy's name. Jesus. But he plays Professor X in the X-Men franchise. Let me look it up now. But I like it. I like it very much what they showed at Comic-Con with the trailer. It looks like it's going to be pretty good, actually. James McAvoy, there you go. He plays Kevin in the film of Glass. Sorry. I'm kind of losing my mind here. Very cool, because it did start off as something very obscure from M. Night. Can't pronounce his last name, but M. Night Shyamalan. I don't know how you pronounce it, but from his films that he started off slowly with, I think it's nice that Shyamalan, there you go, or Shyamalan, something like that. But his films with these two films before that, which was Unbreakable and Split, very interesting, and nobody knew there was a connection to them until like near the end of Split, which is downright interesting. But now that Glass is coming out, it's all about unconventional superheroes, very like fresh out of the whole reality world introduction of superheroes or superhumans that can do different things. Very cool. So I like how they're going with that, and I like how Glass is going to take things to just a whole big, roller coaster ride. And I hope it does good, and I'm pretty sure people are really excited to see it. So check out the trailer for that if you haven't. Definitely something I'd love to see. Now we're going to go on to one thing I again don't want to talk about, because I have one complaint with this. So in terms of anime live actions adaptations, there was one that I heard about, and I was hoping that it would actually be very good. There were concept arts, there was different stuff that was shown of it, and then a trailer came out a long time ago, and the director was shown, like they talked about who was directing it, they talked about the producers who was part of this, James Cameron, Robert Rodriguez. I was like, that's pretty interesting. Never thought those two would work together. Then came out the trailer for Alita Battle Angel. Another successful anime adaptation. So nice. Can you tell I'm excited? Because I am. And it's not for the faint of heart. Honestly, this film had such a great potential to be so goddamn game-changing. What did it end up doing? Oh, I don't know. Let's do everything that other anime adaptations couldn't do. Get that right, which they did. And then, when we're about to finish the movie, or even start making the film, let's do something that nobody has ever done before. What's that? Oh, keep it very normal, interesting, and cool? Nah, we'll just throw in a bunch of anime eyes on the freaking main character. Come on. Who does that? Oh, it's so sad. Honestly, I'm not happy with that. So if you don't know, Alita Battle Angel is a movie that's based off a manga series. Or, yeah, just a manga. And it's very sci-fi, very futuristic. It's a very old manga, mind you. And it's about, sci-fi action, dolls, stuff like that has this super intelligence and combat abilities, and it's able to have its own will and personality. Don't know the whole details of it, but I heard that it was another, adaptation from manga and anime. Great. Loved it. Good idea. Do something good with it. Don't mess up like the rest of the other adaptations. Ghost in the Shell almost had it. The story, though, was just off. Still, everything else was fine. The Battle Angel pretty much was right there. And then, boom. Anime eyes in CGI form on the main character. And then people were saying, why? I was one of those people, not happy about that. Still am not. And call me petty, call me whatever you want. God, I'm not really going to watch that film because of it. I don't care if it ends up being the thing that changes anime adaptations in the industry, but because of that detail, why would anybody want to go watch that? Again, it's just something so petty about me with these things. It's just, if you're going to do anime or manga adaptation, whatever, just do it normally. Don't do anything crazy or obscure, even if it's just a minor detail like the eyes. Keep it just plain old simple. Don't do anything crazy. Special effects, go ahead. But don't bring people's, dream of a waifu to real life with something creepy as that. Like, God, no. That's not what you do. And, of course, there's an explanation as to why her eyes are big, obviously, because she's not human entirely. But still, you could have done it without the crazy big old wompy waifu eyes or whatever. I don't know. I'm not happy with it. But they showed more footage. They really promoted it out there, but not a lot of people were crazy about it. So if it bombs, it bombs. But despite how that one little thing bothers me, I hope it does good regardless, because we do need a good anime adaptation film or manga adaptation to just be out there. So, who knows? I might change my mind later on. Moving on from adaptations and discussion, there was talks of a Metal Gear Solid adaptation. Interesting enough to even consider that, because I really thought that they did that with Escape from New York and Escape from LA with God, I'm terrible with these names. But those two films, I imagine that was like Solid Snake, and I guess not, because they're making a freaking Metal Gear Solid film. I'm not complaining about that though. That's actually pretty good, and they're taking the idea from just doing something different for once. But again, it's a game adaptation. They're doing that with Uncharted. They did that with Tomb Raider, and I mean, yeah, go for it. Kurt Russell. Yeah, I thought that character of Snake Plissken from both those movies, Escape from New York and Escape from LA. I thought that was the same character from the Solid Snake, but I guess not. So we're getting that. There's not too much talk about it, but they're just getting ready to just start working on the project. Good luck to them. Hope it does good. Don't mess it up because people will hate you. Next. Ooh, Doctor Who. Yes. I'm one of those people who is actually very excited about the Doctor becoming a woman. If you don't know, in Doctor Who, regenerations happens, and that's to kind of change up the actors who play the titular character. Now this time around, it's actually a leading lady. Now, she was referred to by David Tennant because they worked together on another show, which I'm not complaining because that's pretty smart on his part. But people were very upset about the decision when it was first released, that it's a woman that's going to be the one who's going to be playing Doctor Who. I was not one of the people that hated the decision. I thought, great, because we kind of always wanted to see that in a way. Still want him to become a ginger, though, because he's always complaining about it, or in this case, she. It's happening. It's cool. Please just do good. And I hope the stories and the cast that they bring into this new series is going to do good. I think they're going to probably premiere it later in the fall. But the trailer showed just snippets of what it is. That's it. Nothing too much in terms of plot. Good for them, though. They're keeping it a little secret. And I'm excited for it. Honestly, continuous movement in the industry that needs change. So good for them. Next one, Predator. Woo! Again, not a movie I was expecting to see being brought up again after all these years. But yeah, we're getting another Predator movie. Whatever, not complaining about it. It's going to be good. Honestly, I feel like it's going to be good. It's going to just be different. They're changing it up a little bit in terms of there's a new level of predators, like the super predators or whatever they want to call them. I'm down for it. Just kind of start making that crossover again with Alien, because that's kind of what the original plan was way back when. And if they're going to do another versus with Alien versus Predator, if this is the beginning of that build-up, go for it. But also include other science fiction franchises in it. Good ones, mind you. Something that's not completely out there and strange. I don't know, if you're gonna bring in the aliens back again, don't have anything in mind, but just kind of look for that. Bring something back that people liked and combine that. So, but if they're not gonna do that, just keep on going with the Predator solo films. Go for it. Just make it more interesting every time. Okay, so we're at the end of that with Comic-Con. That's kind of what was mostly discussed at Comic-Con this year. However, over the weekend, there was an incident that caused a big uproar in the Marvel fan base in terms of the MCU. If you don't know, the director for Guardians of the Galaxy, both Volume 1 and 2, was completely fired off the project of Volume 3. Because he had, there were old tweets dug up from 10 years ago, mind you, about pedophilia, rape, and just things that don't mix up with today's audience and people, because obvious reasons. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to say this. I don't really support what he said back then. It's wrong, of course, but it was a different time. And even so, those jokes, people laughed at them back then because, God, we had a weird, different sense of humor, and times were different. We were not as sensitive as we are today, honestly. And not to say that it's a bad thing, but in a way it kind of is a bad thing, because despite the jokes, if this was another topic in general, be it, I don't know, like a terrorist joke or something like that, in the time 10 years ago when we were still dealing with that stuff, I think pretty much people would laugh. But again, twisted humor doesn't suit everybody. Not for what he said at all currently in this time of day. But I mean, if you're gonna dig up stuff that happened and that person said 10 years ago, and I don't mean to throw anybody under the bus when I say this, what about everybody else's past? All the different actors, all the different directors, and what they've done in the past 10 years, or 10 years ago specifically. I mean, wow. Like, I'm pretty sure other actors, like Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, anybody, and I'm not just naming actors, I'm sorry, but just everybody and anybody that's worked with Marvel, they've done stuff, they've said stuff, and even if it's not out there, it's probably there, probably just nobody has found it. So if you're gonna bring up something for James Gunn to be fired over something like that from 10 years ago, I'm sorry, but do that for everybody else then, because that's not fair to just this one person. And he came out and apologized and said that, you know, that he's sorry for that, for all those things he said, and it was a different time, and he had a different sense of humor. I can respect that, I can believe that, and his whole messages and themes from the Guardians films were reflections of how he felt himself change as a person, as a director, as a writer, as a filmmaker with these films. That was a reflection of how he felt, the changes that went on inside of him for everybody to see in these characters that he brought out to the MCU. And I respect him for having to at least put that out there consciously and knowingly, because we don't know anything about who makes these films and what they do and what they go through. Now I'm gonna step back out of into DC. It's with Zack Snyder. He had to step out of Justice League because his daughter committed suicide. We go through things, we experience things, and we change as people. James Gunn had not exactly the same thing as Zack did, but he had a change, and I'm pretty sure Zack himself has had a change in perspective and probably style and what he wants to do with films nowadays, and that's understandable. So again, I'm not playing devil's advocate here, but if a man like that can change, if a woman like that can change, if anybody like that can change, what's to say that you can't overlook entirely everything? Not entirely, I'm sorry, not entirely everything that he said and did. Just, yes, of course, he said say that stuff before. We can acknowledge that. But again, everybody has crap they go through, but people change in the next years ahead of them. It's common that people don't, but it's also very rare that people do. James Gunn was one person. Robert Downey Jr. was another person. Chris Evans, I'm pretty sure, has changed. Scarlett Johansson has changed. Everybody's changed with the MCU. And I imagine probably in DC, they have changed themselves. Everybody changes. So if a person is not the same way they are back then, I don't see why you can't give them a chance. And just respect that even though we were once completely crazy idiots, we can change as people. And we have to respect that, honestly. Again, I don't support what he said, but I feel like it should at least give him the chance to say goodbye to the Guardians, because Volume 3 was going to be the last film of the Guardians. Just let him finish that, man. That's it. Then you can just throw him under the bus and say he was never part of the MCU. Just let him finish that legacy. So I hope something good comes out of it, honestly. I really do. So we're at the end of this podcast, and it was a lot to cover. I'm sorry. I didn't expect for it to run as long as it did, man. Actually over an hour. I'm sorry. You have to hear me banter and talk. Anyways, this is part of the podcast where I just do a random bit and talk about whatever. But because of the first episode, I really want to thank everybody who has encouraged me to take on this idea of just talking about different things that I like and enjoy, and that goes on currently. a lot of my friends and a lot of people have really enjoyed my opinion and my views on different things. And that's encouraged me to put my voice out there in any way I can. I would do regular videos, but that would be very boring. So I figured a podcast would be better. And speaking of which, I'm very, very much encouraged to bring in like different guests and different people that I know to just talk with me, because it's very weird talking about myself. But that won't be for a while. Or maybe it'll be the next episode. Honestly, I don't know. But I would really like to have people come in and we would have a chat and talk about different things, especially things that happen within the months that follow. So this is a monthly podcast. Let me make that very clear. It can change to a semi-weekly or like a bi-weekly kind of podcast, but not a weekly one, because that'll be too much, and not much happens in the week, honestly, and I'm not one to delve into everything like hardcore. So it will be a monthly podcast for now. Can change, but only if the audience demands it. Yeah. So just thank you for coming in and hearing me talk about different things. Not what people were expecting, I imagine, but next month will probably be very different. I want to make this very clear, though. I won't be talking about politics. I won't be talking about anything completely like destructive and just heartbreaking in terms of like attacks or anything like that. I mean, it is a very big thing nowadays to talk about in the world that we live in, but I'm trying to keep this podcast something that people can just escape from and just listen to and just have a laugh at whatever I say, or just, have a discussion about it with other people. This is only meant to just serve as a discussion, a base of discussion about other things. And while I don't mean to have intentions of ignoring the important and disastrous things that happen in the world, it's just best to have something that you can go back to and just enjoy. Of course, some of these things that may happen, God willing, there won't be anything too serious happen to me or anybody else I know, or to any of you, that will affect what I do here, but just making it clear that this is just going to be a space where you can just listen to whatever. And I will get into moments where we'll talk about different serious things, but it won't be very often. So I'll just keep that in mind for now. So with that being said, I'm going to bring it to a close. Again, thank you so much for listening. This is John, and this is the Arcadia 1 podcast. I hope you enjoy it. Please, please, please subscribe. And comment suggestions and stuff that you want me to talk about next time. Keep in mind, again, this is a monthly podcast, so it won't be probably discussed until next month. And things of whatever you want me to talk about may change on different levels of interest or just discussion in general. Either way, thank you so much, and good day to you all.